Let's go. We're crushing it
I
today.
love all these founders that show up in like plain white rooms, like they're just locked the fuck in. Like there's nothing to distract you. You're not going to look at anything on your walls. It's just purely
The
the
mattress
time.
on the mattress is on the corner beside you somewhere.
Yeah, just the mattress and the desk, and that's kind of all that's in here.
Performative ramen sitting on the side.
Nice, man. Excited to get into it. So you're the co-founder of FOMO, which is a social trading app that makes it easy to follow traders, discover new assets, and of course, ape into new tokens. I guess I'm curious to start off with just kind of a higher level understanding of what your vision for the future of social and finance is that you're building towards.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that, over the years, crypto has solved a lot of problems. I think a lot of them have been on the tech side, making advances from places like Ethereum to higher throughput blockchains to layer twos and kind of everything in between. And I think that at this point, we're kind of getting to the place where we're kind of over indexing on the actual technology itself, right? It's going to be commoditized away in the next, few years, maybe even sooner than that. And I think that like the number one problem that crypto still has is UX, right? UX is kind of the 10x, 100x problem that still needs to be solved. Everything that's built is still very much geared towards the crypto user. So you still need to set up a wallet. You still need to understand what gas fees are, what blockchains are. And that's even just to get started, right? There's all these like kind of intricate products like predictions markets. You can use bridges. You can use borrow lending. And I think for us, the kind of the core goal here is to create a product that is really easy to use. 60 seconds, you can be logged in. It's very intuitive to use. So you can follow friends, you can see who the top traders are, you can discover assets, and you can kind of do all of the things that crypto has powered through the technology it's built over time. So right now we just support spot trading on Solana, but we imagine this evolves. So we're going to launch with Base, probably Hype EVM, support some of the new EVM chains that are coming out, and make this an experience where you can go from one asset on a chain to any asset on another in under 5 seconds. So, there's a lot of these like multi-chain apps. They use a lot of bridges. They use a lot of technology that kind of slows this down to the point where it's 20, 30 seconds of transaction, and we don't think that's an ideal user experience for the retail user. They're usually on Coinbase or Robinhood, and these things just like aren't going to make sense to them. Why it's taking so long, right? You can't describe finality to your grandma. It's not going to really make sense. So that's where we start, and then I think we want to integrate everything into this app where essentially we want to take the best parts of what crypto is built, whether that's perps, whether that's borrow lending, whether that's prediction markets, and then create this really beautiful and seamless UI that can power all these different things. So you want to go trade perps, we'll call it something like boosted, or we'll call it something like, I don't remember the terminology that Robinhood uses, but just a terminology that really makes sense to the end user. They're never going to understand what a perpetual future is. And similar for borrow lending, right? You can get 12% on USDC. We'll find all the best routes, and all you have to do is click lend, and you're earning right away.
So you guys launched earlier this year, and there's Pump, Moonshot, Vector. I mean, a fairly crowded space in the category going after. I'm curious what gave you the most conviction here. Is it just your faith in your ability to bring a better UX, or is there something else there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. So I think that, there's a lot of great apps that are crypto specific, like Phantom and Jupiter and Pump. I think that Moonshot, when they kind of launched, was this like aha moment where it's like, okay, actually people are really interested in buying these coins early on. And, hat tip to them. I think they've created a really good product. It's very easy to use. But I always found that the people I onboarded to the app, there was a missing second step. So, they come onto the app, they buy Moodang, but then it's like, what do you do after that, right? And we really try to understand, like, how do you deliver all the information to people without creating all this complex tooling? And the number one solution we've kind of come to is it needs to be social. It needs to be verifiable. It needs to be open on the blockchain. And it needs to be something where you can see what people are doing and not listen to necessarily what they're saying. Because I think there's a lot of conflict of interest there at times between people and crypto. So we were like, okay, you come onto our app, maybe you come to buy Moodang or you come to buy Pepe or whatever the coin might be. You close the trade, and now you're not going to churn as a user because you have friends that are on the app. You can see how they're doing. Most of the early IPO and stock days were always, it was always word of mouth, right? Hey, what did you buy? I bought this IPO. Oh, okay. Well, why'd you buy it? I don't know, but I'm up 100%. So, you should buy it too. And that's kind of how the world of investing goes for most retail users. So we want to create the social experience. We want to power it with an algorithm within our feed that powers trending assets, discovery of top traders, and kind of just give you the whole experience without having to complicate it. And at this point, we only launched 2 months ago. I would say that we have a very strong background. So our team comes from companies like DYDX, OpenSea, Uniswap. and a couple of other Web2 companies like Google and Two Sigma. So we're very seasoned veterans in the space. We've all been building in the space for 5+ years. We've seen protocols go 0 to 1. I think a lot of the takings that we found through, some of these consumer apps and some a little bit more institutional apps is that the UX does matter. It really does matter how you deliver to the end user. It needs to be clean. And so far, 2 months after beta launch, we've already become the #1 mobile trading app on Solana. So, Phantom and Jupiter obviously do a good amount of volume. I'm not sure how much of that is through their mobile apps, but through the last 3 weeks or so, we've kind of topped some of the guys you've mentioned, like Moonshot and Vector, as far as volume, and we're seeing tremendous growth week over week.
But I think even when you just look at like the number of people that are actually trading meme coins today, like it's still so small. And when you mention, integrating perps and all these other kind of new financial primitives or things that are going to come on chain, like this is clearly just a very early opportunity to be the new like home of finance for, Gen Z or whatever, this new type of consumer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, perps is like novel to crypto, right? It's created, from the BitMEX days a decade or so ago. And I think it's a much better option on like the futures contract. That's never going to be something that sticks with normal people. And it can be something that, gives people a new thing to trade as far as asset classes in crypto.
So you guys were the #1 mobile trading product last week with about $12 million in volume. So congrats on that. I'm really interested in sort of the early growth motions that got you there. Can you sort of unpack how you guys approached growing in this category?
Yeah, so actually I would say one of the most helpful things was, we wanted everything to be strategic early on. So we, spoke to a couple of VCs, a lot of guys we liked, some, maybe we didn't, but at the end of the day, we decided, okay, we don't actually need the money here. We think we'll get to cash flow pretty quickly. So how can we leverage this moment that's supposed to be this, big moment for a company in increasing distribution? So what we ended up doing was we ended up raising from 140 different angels. It was, a process that I wouldn't really recommend, but it's definitely worthwhile. We went to some of our favorite builders, guys like Raj from Solana, Brian from Layer Zero, and then other people outside of the space like Biology and Aaron Harris and such. And this was really helpful for us, right? Because one, we were able to develop a lot of these meaningful relationships early on with these people, kind of pitch them of our idea and then get buy-in from them, get them excited. And then two, we were able to leverage a lot of distribution channels. Some of these guys are larger crypto traders. Some of them are friends that, we spent a lot of time with trading in different group chats and coming up through the different areas of crypto. So distribution was really key there. And I think that was the biggest 0 to 1. It's kind of like every app needs this like very big moment where they can go from, maybe 5-10 users to the hundreds of thousands. And we're able to catch that pretty early on just because of distribution and the strategy that we placed into the fundraising round.
I think that's such an underrated strategy, and some of the products that I think have just broken through and captured the most attention have just like very vibrant investor group chats because they've followed a similar strategy, right? And you feel like you have this, baked in distribution, a bunch of kind of really cracked people that are on your side. They're boosting your posts, they're telling people to use you. So I think that's really smart.
Well, so would you say that's different than sort of like the K? Because I'm not sure it's a novel strategy, Josh. I think it's a very smart strategy. But it's someone I think we see often in crypto, but it's often framed as like the KOL round and stuff like that. So how would you? I'm assuming that you approach this in a different way and are talking about it in a different way. What's the distinction between those in your mind?
Yeah, so I think KOL rounds are often, they're usually discounted to whatever valuation. There's usually some perks. There's usually kind of like some backdoor deal that's enticing a lot of these like bigger accounts to come show your bags. We honestly have never paid for marketing. We've never paid for posts. We've never paid for anything that we think feels like disingenuous alignment long term. So with all these guys, we had conversations with each and every one of them like, hey, like, this is the deal. This is the deal that everybody's getting, whether you're, Biology or whether you're a friend that, we work together with at UIDX or Uniswap. And it's just the same deal for everyone. You get, here's straight up, here's what the terms are. Here's what we want to build. Here's our team. Here's how this might evolve over time. And I would say contrary to KOL round, we actually went to a lot of builders. So there's probably like 60+ people that I think normally would not invest in Solana-based trading project, like CEOs of places like Polygon and Berachain and Say. And these are just people we spent a lot of time building relationships with. They trust us. They trust that we'll deliver on the end vision, which is this app that allows you to trade any coin on any chain. And then also to tap into all the novel technologies that develop from, previously to now to whatever comes in the future. And I think that's why it was a little bit more, I would say, like novel than your typical KOL rounds.
Yeah, the 140 number I think is pretty different too. It's like usually it's like 5 KOLs with 100,000 followers, and move
get
on.
to that
But
2 million follower number, and then
Exactly.
my token will be
Exactly.
successful. Let's go.
Sam, I'm curious how you think about retention and kind of think about this a lot in the context of these like meme coin trading products. Because I think if a new user signs up and hits a 10x, like they're probably not going anywhere. If they sign up and lose all their money, they're probably not coming back. And I tried out FOMO maybe a month ago, not with the intention to like do well. I just wanted to play with the product and put $100 in, and 2 hours later it was gone. So I'm curious how you like design for that experience.
Yeah, I mean, education, safety, and user education generally are top of mind for us. So we actually just started this effort where hopefully we'll have some articles out the next week. But we're going to kind of walk you through, like, imagine you know nothing about crypto, and how can you understand what's going on in the app, what people are doing, and the risks and inherent, warnings that you might be missing as somebody who doesn't have context. But I would say the main thing here is the social aspect, right? It's like if you consider why people come back to apps every day, there's two reasons. One is maybe they think they can make money, and then the other is their friends are on the app. So it's one of those things where maybe you onboard with a group of friends, there's 5 of you, you lose all your money, but then next time you hang out with your buddy Dan, he's like, hey, like I made $500 on FOMO last week. Now you have this like ignited interest, like, okay, wait, like Dan's not a smart guy, like I can go make $500 too. So it's this social aspect that I think humans inherently think they're always better than the average person, or specifically like their group of whoever they hang out with. So there's a human kind of natural tendencies we're leaning into there. And then the other thing is notifications. You can literally get notified when the top traders are buying, when they're selling, what's going on, when multiple users buy and sell. And I think there's this like magical moment where, let's say you join the app, let's say like yourself, you deposit $100, you lose it all, you close the app, and then you come back later on, you're like, wait, like this guy also had $100 last time I checked. Now he's at $10,000. Like I could have just looked at exactly the same things he's done and be in the same spot. So a lot of this is just like, it doesn't feel too out of reach because you're getting the information in real time. You're not getting shielded in these like, third degree Telegram channels after the information's already been disseminated. You're kind of seeing it based on the actions and not the intents or the words. So I think there's a forum for everybody to come on here and find their own strategy, and hopefully we can continue to increase the churn prevention over time as well.
I'm curious about this sort of, we've been hearing from some of the more boomer investor conversations we've had over the last little while. As something that goes like, most fintechs will become crypto products, but most crypto products won't become fintechs. Sort of this idea that, the swap and replace the infrastructure, if you have a user base, is going to be far easier than building a new user base. And it's kind of used as a way, I think, to discount the potential of new financial apps breaking free in this new sort of world with somewhat of a more clear regulation, space. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are. Is there still a whole lot of room to run for novel new crypto experiences, or we're just going to get eaten alive by the Web2 guys that come in with a ton of distribution and money?
I think it really depends on what the people that are building are going to focus on, right? Like as I mentioned earlier, I do think the tech issue is like largely solved. There's still some long tail cases that can't be handled, like payment processing across the world. But I think that the faster we can focus on building the right UX and building the core components of this experience to be so easy that anybody can do it, that's when we kind of take back some of the market share there. Like there's embedded wallets like Privy and Turnkey that allow you to do this very easily. You don't even have to know what a blockchain is if the app is designed right. And in a lot of cases, like that's our end goal. We don't even want you to know whether you're on Solana or whether you're on Base or Hype EVM or whatnot. It's kind of similar to the earliest internet, where I think now if you go to a website, there's HTTPS on your browser. You don't think about what is that, right? Like you don't actually think about what is www. You kind of just know that these are inherent parts of the fundamental stack that you use day in and day out, and that's where crypto needs to be for us to have a chance. Because I think if we can do those things, like we know the industry better, we know the technology better, we can craft all of these things to our advantage in a way that they can't really compete at. And I think a lot of this is just like the smaller companies and the smaller builders are hungrier and they're willing to take a little bit more, I would say, like outsized risk reward. And that's a powerful thing, because if you're a regulated company, you can't just decide, let me go do this thing and claim that I'm oblivious, because you probably have 100 lawyers that are telling you exactly what you can and can't do.
Long founders, short lawyers. Say thanks for hopping on with us today, man, and best of luck.
Thank you guys. Appreciate the time.
Peace, dude.